Your kids are older, you've never used parental controls, is it too late for you to start? A lot of parents do ask me, my child's 15, 16, even 17. Is it too late? I have concerns, but I'm not really sure if there's something I can do. The answer is it's never ever too late. There are things you can do. There's just a different approach to it. With 15-plus-year-olds, we do know as parents that they've probably been using technology and had their social media accounts for a really long time now. So you probably know that when you're going to go in for this conversation that there's going to be some resistance. And truth be told, there will be. So anticipate it, it's important. Implementing parental control tools and still setting some rules, even when they're older, is very, very important because we know that some of the issues that they face with exposure to inappropriate content, sexting, even excessive screen time can happen a lot when kids get older and they become stressed. I see a lot of Year 12 students who turn to technology, particularly at night time, when they're feeling stressed and they're studying for their exams and they don't know what to do. And all of a sudden it's 2 a.m. and they can't stop getting on YouTube. Putting some strategies in place is really important. Expect that there will be a little bit of resistance because there will be. They're used to having it completely free, completely boundaryless. It doesn't mean that you can't put boundaries in place. You have to. It's important. The way that you do it is by getting on your child's level. Go and sit with them. It's very communication based and say, hey, here are my concerns. And as a parent, genuinely express what your concerns are so that your child knows where you're coming from. It's not about doing to them, it's about doing with them. At the end of the day, it's for their benefit. They'll get it later on if need be. But once you've expressed your concerns, what you need to ask them is, how do they feel about it? Do they have any concerns? And if that is your concern as the parent, how does your child suggest that they address them? Sometimes with teenagers, they'll be resistant. Now, teenagers we know developmentally are built to question you. They're supposed to. It's because they're becoming adults, and part of that's okay. I'm not sitting here saying that kids will 100% be on board with everything that you have to say, but at least you're including them in the process. And that's one of the first steps to getting that resistance to decrease a little bit. Teenagers need a lot of sleep. We usually say they need at least 9 to 10 hours of sleep every night. We also know that teenagers are not getting that. And one of the main barriers is their technology use at bedtime. Parents, when they're a little bit older, say, okay, you can have your phone in your bedroom, but you're not allowed to use it, which we know never gets enforced. In fact, we know for teenagers, particularly the older ones, that their online activity ramps up after 10 p.m. and even at 1 a.m. is incredibly high. The problem as a parent is that you don't know that. Unless you've got a parental control tool in place monitoring how much time they're spending online and when they are online, you don't know. The argument that young people need an alarm clock or they like to listen to music is a huge barrier for parents then to say, okay, well, I can't take your phone out of your room. And hey, to be honest, I use my phone as an alarm clock too. I think we can all relate to that. The problem is if the device itself is completely unfiltered and unprotected, then kids cannot self-regulate. They will just want to check something, but then they'll get distracted by something else. And I'm just going to check my Instagram notifications. And next minute, they've spent the next 35 minutes scrolling through Instagram Explore, getting wrapped up in other people's lives, and then feel this self-comparison that happens, and they have low self-esteem, and then they don't sleep. So they wake up the next morning and they're moody. So there are apps on the phone that can be brilliant for sleep, but we've still got to make sure that we're minimizing exposure to other apps that can just be distracting. If we're going to allow our kids to have their phones in their rooms because they need an alarm clock or they need some music to relax them, it's important that we've got something installed on their phone that stops them from accessing Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat at the early hours of the morning. And that really has to be a parental control tool. You have to use something like Family Zone to block Instagram, Snapchat after bedtime, but still allow those fundamental apps that she may need, like her music or like her alarm clock. That means that you can have that peace of mind that she's not accessing inappropriate websites or apps, but she's using it just for the thing that she needs during that time. Yeah, this is a tricky one to answer. This is really hard to address because parents want to implement settings and controls on their child's device, but what happens is when they get a little bit older, kids become more reluctant to hand over the device, phone, whatever the case is. And the argument of suspending a plan or taking the phone away, that's one of the best arguments a parent has. It's the most power that a parent can have. Even for the older kids, it's really important that parents are paying for plans because that means that you have ownership over that phone. And it's a privilege that kids are getting that phone as opposed to a right that they get to have it. That particular age group is associated with the greatest number of exposures to cyber safety risks. We know that sexting often ramps up. We know that cyberbullying often ramps up. And exposure to inappropriate content like pornography is at the height at that particular age. So parents can often feel to step away from supervising children at that age, and that's when you really need to throw yourself into supervising and putting some tools in place to manage that online exposure. With older teenagers, we have to adopt the philosophy that we're doing with them as opposed to doing to them. But ask them what they need and what they want, and try and add a bit of that into your plan so that they have a bit less resistance. There is no age where strategies and boundaries are useless. There is no age where it's too late. Even at 17, young people can benefit from having tools in place and strategies in place to help with some of the online issues they might be facing, which could be to do with excessive screen time, it could be to do with relationships online. Young people are very clever, which is part of the reason why I really like working with them, but they know some of the lines to tell their parents to make parents feel guilty. One of the lines is, "You're the only parent that's doing this. Why are you so over the top?" When older teenagers turn around and say, "You are literally the only person that does this," what you need to do then is really make it clear why you're doing it. You've got a reason for it. It's not just because you are on a power trip and deciding something for them. Tell them why it's important. They won't agree, but at least they can help them understand. Because I said so, the age-old statement. Yes, at some point that loses a little bit of its power. You're still reasoning with an adult, so telling them why will help them.